Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GBYWN Australia podcast. I am here today with a very special guest, retired backyard wrestler now, former ICWS Heavyweight Champion, former GBYWN Australian Heavyweight Champion, and more recently, WZWA Backyard Champion. I'm talking about the one, the only, the former leader of the Australian era of the radical movement, Mike Delcanho.
I think you also forgot former ICWS Hardcore Champion.
Oh, yeah.
You forgot that. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Yep.
I apologise.
I think that's a very important part of my history. That
It is an important part.
Acknowledge.
And we will talk about that at
Okay.
some point here today, Mike. Thank you for being with me. I know Rad Hazard's definitely going to be looking forward to this interview because you seem to be one of his favourites.
Yeah, well, he entrusted me with the Australian radical movement thing, so, you know.
Yep.
And he constantly spoils Raw and WWE pay-per-views on my newsfeed, but sure, nice guy.
Yeah, I've actually hidden Rad Hazard's status updates now because he almost ruined the Royal Rumble for me a couple of years ago. But then I went to download the torrent off the Pirate Bay, and the dickhead put in the description, Alberto Del Rio wins. And I was like, you fucking asshole.
What a useless torrent. Like,
I know, like...
Especially so recently after the Rumble.
Yeah, it was like that day, and I was like, oh, awesome. Click on it.
Dickhead.
Like, motherfucker. Anyway, let's talk about Mike Delcanho, how he came to be in backyard wrestling. When were we first like a fan of wrestling?
So I first became a fan of wrestling when I was 12 years old. I was 2007. Yeah, I know I'm young, Carl. Pretty much Clint Marshall had a spare ticket to a WWE live event, and I took it. I was not a fan of wrestling at the time. I'd watched it once on TV before and thought this is so fake.
Yep.
And I went and I was just absolutely entranced by this show. Like, Ric Flair came out in the first match with this sequined robe, and he was just like this old guy, but I could tell he was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't look like anything special, but as soon as he had this air of majesty to him, and I just knew that he's someone that I would want to watch.
Was that the match he had with A-Train?
No, that was Chris Masters. That was 2007, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was the first ever match I saw, was Chris Masters versus Ric Flair. And yeah, after that, pretty much was just obsessed with it completely. Like, spent all my spare time at school looking up pay-per-view results and just...
Really? So just one WWE event?
One WWE event, completely and utterly.
Because I know some of the new backyard wrestling generation, they got into wrestling because of the video games.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people became fans of wrestling because they play the video games, then they end up started to watch it.
Now, for me, I was actually at a Blockbuster with my mum a couple of months after I started watching wrestling, and I saw an old WWF Raw video game from like the early 2000s, and I was like, cool.
Oh, cool.
Because my Xbox was modded, so I just rented it and then downloaded it onto the Xbox, and I could play it whenever I wanted to.
Oh, cool.
And it was sick. Like, I had these old wrestlers, and I was I made my own versions of John Cena and Randy Orton because they weren't on the game. So
Shit.
Just gave them a Death Valley Driver and a Diamond Cutter as their finishers. I was like, what else could I do?
So at this stage when you're watching wrestling, do you watch the pay-per-views with Zibby, who became Clint Marshall, and JD Flame?
Yeah, and there was also a fourth guy who was usually with us, Jake Goldman. Rest in peace, man. And yeah, the four of us were just absolutely obsessed. Other people came in and out of watching, like, I remember WrestleMania 24. We had like a fair few people at Justin's place watching it. But yeah, it was us four who were the real into wrestling guys.
Okay. So from there, when do you guys decide, okay, we love this shit, let's start doing it?
Well, I don't remember. Someone, I feel like it was probably Zibby, saw on an IKEA website there was a... Oh no, they had an old trampoline. This old rectangular, shitty, like, absolutely dilapidated trampoline.
Yeah.
But we were small enough that we could still wrestle on there. So we all, we all tried the moves. Everyone does it. We had a trampoline, so we all tried the moves we saw on TV, made our own personas that were just terrible.
Yeah.
And gave ourselves moves that were terrible. And we just, did matches on the fly. And we just enjoyed ourselves. Really.
Okay. So how did the Backyard Wrestling Finishes videos on YouTube come about?
So, alright, so we saw that people uploaded their own videos of trampoline wrestling to the internet, and we were like, we want to do this too. And so, this was usually me, but Zib and Justin also helped. We just compiled a list of finishes, like the basic finishes. angle slams, the FUs, the RKOs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we just filmed them. And then there was one really out of place move. It's like you got all these classic finishes, and then randomly, because we could, Zib and I did a Canadian Destroyer. And we uploaded it, man. I think that thing's got like 10,000 views on YouTube or something ridiculous.
There's like 7 of them, isn't there? 7 different
Yeah, because there were
videos?
7 or 8 or however many there were, and we stopped releasing them after like, God, must have been 2009, 2010. And they've just been accumulating views.
Yeah,
which is
so
ridiculous because
many
they're terrible. They're terrible. They're absolutely atrocious.
Well, the first few were pretty atrocious, but after that, you guys were starting to get
Well, yeah,
because
because after that, we Zibby found a round trampoline at IKEA for $240 or something.
Yeah.
And so each of our families chipped in $80, and we got this trampoline between the 3 of us.
Okay.
Which is a pretty sick thing to have.
So how did you guys first get in touch with Dan Zeppelin and the ICWS? I believe he was the one that talked to you guys at first.
Yes, it was Dan. We were outside an EPW event, and EPW, for people who aren't from Perth, Australia, is probably the premier, well, definitely the premier wrestling company in Perth. And so we were huge fans. We've been fans since 2009, loved the company. And it was like late 2009, and then we see these other kids around our age standing in line. So naturally we went to talk to them, because we didn't know any other kids who were into wrestling our age. And it was Dan Zeppelin, DJ, Chris Zeppelin, MC Cruel, so Eli, and Blaze.
Oh, Blaze was there.
Toby Elwatiri was there as well. And so from that, I messaged about Dan about doing like an invasion angle with the TWA, which was our trampoline fed, invading ICWS. But Zibby and Justin didn't want to. They didn't want to put matches on the internet for some reason. Whatever. Yeah. And then I was talking to Dan. I pitched a storyline where I came in and pretty much automatically staked my claim for the ICWS Championship, because that's what everyone does when they, Mykonos, Aston Crude, when they come to ICWS, they automatically want to be the champion, because they were the champion in their previous fed.
Yes, of course.
That was shot down. I was given a match with Dan under a mask, El Queso Grande.
Okay, so did it take a while for you to finally come on board, or were you the only one out of the 4 of you?
I was really keen the entire time. There was a bit of iffiness, like with my mum, because my mum would have had to have driven me because I was like 15 at the time. Mm-hmm. And so there was iffiness on her behalf on whether I'd be safe or whatever. But she eventually, took a while, but she warmed up to it.
Yep.
And I always really wanted to do it.
So when you rocked up that first time, and you're not there with Zibby, you're not there with Justin, you're just by yourself, and you're with these guys you don't really know, was it hard to fit in at first?
I didn't think so, actually. I thought it would be. I was terrified. But, the ICWS boys were all very welcoming, and I think... Sorry, don't want to toot my own horn here, but I think that I showed that I had something to give.
Yeah.
I was just messing around with Dan on the base, and him with this beautiful Batista bomb, which Bundaberg accosted me for stealing his move, even though he'd literally wrestled 4 events with 4 different finishes at that point.
Of course.
That's not even a joke. I can genuinely count them. He'd never used the same finisher more than once.
Okay. So he's like Jack Wallace with his entrance theme.
Exactly. Except Jack has had the distinction of using the same theme for 2 consecutive events, which Bundaberg never did, 4 finishes.
Yeah.
And no, I found the ICWS boys very welcoming, especially Dan. Especially, I thought was the most. And in that phase, my best friend in ICWS was Nick James. Easy.
Really?
Yeah. Easy.
Awesome.
I actually hung out with him outside of wrestling a fair bit.
Okay. Yeah, he was always really cool to hang out with at the shows when I first started. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so your debut match is against El Queso Grande, the
big cheese.
I guess you could call him the welcoming committee for the ICWS.
The default,
the debut is always against him, and you get the win.
The maitre d' at the restaurant, El Queso Grande, the first person you see every time you go to this restaurant.
So, you were nervous for this match. I mean, you'd
a little
recently been, you've been doing it on the trampoline quite a bit, but you hadn't really wrestled on a base before. Did you just take to it straight away?
Oh shit! This is a long time ago now, but I think I did all right. Looking back is absolutely atrocious because it was 2010. I was 15. It was shit. But we pulled out some spots. There were some pretty cool spots, like a lifting DDT spot, and the finish I wanted for some reason was for him to pass out during the cloverleaf. And I don't know how someone passes out during a leg lock, but I wanted it to happen. And then Dan was like, "That's stupid." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll pin you after a roll and cutter." I hit him with a roll and cutter, and he kicked out. So I'm like, screw you, and so I put him in a cloverleaf, and he tapped out.
Okay.
Also, the worst cloverleaf I've ever seen in my life. Like, my arm was, like, through the wrong hole, and it just looked awkward.
Have you not seen Jack Wallace's cloverleaf?
Oh, snap. Alright, my worst cloverleaf was that
the
first one.
Mullaloo cloverleaf.
The Mullaloo cloverleaf.
Oh, my Lord.
Cross the ankles over, wrap it around however you feel like, then step over.
Poor Jack. I'll stop picking on you now.
I won't. Yeah, and then after the match, I hit him with another rolling cutter, because why not? You know, this fat afro braces kid, like, trying to look intimidating, coming out in all black clothing, coming out to, oh god, what was my entrance theme? Was Reject Yourself by Killswitch Engage. Like, I thought I was hardcore shit, man.
No, but that is standard backyard wrestling right there. That is the perfect backyard wrestling, you know...
Yeah.
Guy that's just starting out. Of course, he uses the generic...
metal screamo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came out and I thought I was top shit. And, like...
And you're just wearing normal clothes.
Yeah, I was wearing jiu-jitsu pants and a black t-shirt I had, or like a grey t-shirt with, you know, my prepubescent man tits very clearly poking through.
Yeah. Okay, so what were your first impressions of all the other ICWS guys? Aside from Dan Zeppelin and Wiki Nick James, your first impressions of a Daniel Johnston or a MC Cruel?
As wrestlers or as people?
People.
As people, DJ, I really didn't... I'm not looking at the screen.
No, it's the wind, sorry.
DJ, I didn't really speak to until, God, would have been like 2011, 2012. Didn't speak to him that much. Eli I found very welcoming. Bundaberg I thought was very welcoming, and we shared an interest in being able to flip. The difference was at the time he could flip and I couldn't.
Okay.
Because I just assumed I could flip because I couldn't on trampoline, and then that didn't really translate over to non-trampoline.
Yeah.
Shockingly. God, who else was there? Nick, I just thought was really quiet, which he was.
Was Knuckles there?
Knuckles was kind of sporadically there.
Yeah.
I just thought he was this really cool, quiet guy who I would never cross. Like, I just thought he just had that aura that you don't piss off this guy, and so that is what I thought he was. I thought he was the default scary guy in the locker room, quote unquote locker room.
Yeah.
This random Serbian bloke who they pulled off the streets.
So how long? So it took you a little while, but you finally got JD Flame on board, and you guys wrestled at Twisted Metal 4 for his first match. I thought it was a quality little match when I watched it back on the DVD after I got it. How did you feel about finally getting Justin in the ICWS? And how did you get him there?
I don't even remember how I got him there. I just know that it was a lot of politicking and Facebook messaging and talking to him. Because at that time we were going to different schools. So there was one semester where we were at different schools. Then he moved to the school I moved to. Yeah. And so it definitely was all over Facebook or in person. And, like, you know, we went over the match a bazillion times on his, because he has this little inbuilt gymnastics trampoline at his place, because, you know, it's fucking loaded. So he has his own fucking personal gymnastics trampoline. So we went over the match a million times. He wanted to go over. We were both heels, which was also weird. He wanted to go over. I wanted to go over. Eventually they decided I was going over, so I was like, fuck yeah. And they said, if JD Flame would go face, then you'll go over Mike. But he wanted to be heel, thank God, because he was just a natural heel.
He could not have been a face.
At that point in time,
stage.
He could not have been a face.
No.
He needed to be a heel.
Too dislikable.
So, man, Jesus, I've just gone through so many phases with that guy. Like, currently he's one of my best mates in the world.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But, fuck, he was unbearable sometimes in high school, as was I, as was everyone.
Yeah.
But, like, he needed to be a heel.
So, soon after this, you became the hardcore champion. They brought the title back from, I think, Big Mac was the former champion. And Big Mac retired, so the title was vacated and put on the shelf.
Yep.
They brought it back. You win. I believe it was a triple threat match with Chaos and JD Flame.
Yep.
So your thoughts on that show where you got to win a championship?
Alright, so
Your first championship.
So it was the tournament was put down into three semi-final matches and then one final with everyone. So the three semi-finals were all falls count anywhere, but still disqualification rules.
Okay.
And then the final was just...
I remember there was a big discussion on the ICWS thread about how we were going to do it. Man, there was...
Jesus.
And I was like, man, you're giving away the results here. guys.
Thank you. Oh man, that was my.
I used to get so angry at how they would say, okay, so you'll win this match. I'm like, dude, I want to come as a fan as well as a wrestler.
That has been something that in my later career, like from like mid 2011 onwards, I always tried to just shock people, because the thing that did that was, don't mean to suck your dick here, but your surprise entrance at Winter Warfare. Yeah, man, because that blew me away. I had no idea you were there.
I like to, I think when you keep things secret, you'll get the better reaction.
Exactly, and so anyway, animosity. I went over Nick in the Falls Can Anywhere match.
Yeah,
that was just like a really short match with a few decent spots in there.
I would say that was Wiki Nick James's last really good match,
and it was just so short. I remember there was one spot where I don't even remember why. I went for like a drop kick off the base onto him, and he literally just sidestepped me and threw me off the base, and I front bumped on the floor.
Fuck.
And I was just like, ow. And then later I threw him. I DDT'd him into a shed when he tried to fireman's carry me, and I locked him in a cloverleaf. He tapped out. Simple match, but I'm glad I got to have a match with Nick at some point, because like now knowing in hindsight how little he ended up wrestling after that.
Yeah.
And how close I got with him.
Right at the tail end there.
I was very glad to get that one match with him. And then the final, holy fuck, what a clusterfuck. That was an absolute fucking car wreck of a match.
Was that, did you, when you look back, is that a bit of a shame for you? This is your first title win in backyard wrestling.
Yeah,
and now you're
just
soured because of a bad match.
But there were the three of us. There was me, who was like sort of in the middle. There was Chaos, Josh, who was just, to us, he was balls out insane.
Yeah.
Like, he was just fucking psychopathic.
Yeah.
And there was Justin, who did not want to take a single bump or weapon shot, or... So a lot of the match...
he's never been into the hardcore.
A lot of the match was just Chaos chasing JD Flame around the ring with weapons. And he's trying as hard as he can not to be hit. And so I'm trying to, like, mediate and, like, somehow work with both guys, because Justin trusts me, Josh trusts me. And so I just figure I have to be... We had a few decent spots in there. I ran up the wall and did a slice spread number 2.
Yeah.
Which was just like, what the fuck? Because, first of all, like, I got upwards vertical and just fell down. So I'm very lucky I didn't break my neck there.
Yeah.
A few other spots. First time light tubes were done on a non-SBWS person when I got hit by a light tube.
So how important is this title win in when you look back on your backyard wrestling life? How important is that to you? It's
not important as a championship, but looking in hindsight and seeing how early in my career I was, and the fact they entrusted me with their secondary title, like, I was just very grateful.
After only having maybe had 3 matches?
I'd had 2 matches prior to the tournament.
2? Awesome.
And
okay.
So, yeah.
So after that, you're defending your championship, but there was one show where you didn't defend your championship. You wrestled a guy who was making his return for only a couple of shows. You wrestled MC Cruel in a non-title match. Now, when I spoke to DJ on the podcast about 2010 when we were doing the timeline, which should be uploaded soon, he said there was a bit of heat between you and Eli at the time, some issues between the two of you, and there was a little bit of a problem with Eli going over. I think maybe you thought you should be going over because you're the guy that's going to be sticking around. Eli was going to be going again soon. Personally, I was there, and when I saw Eli beat you, I was like, Delcanho should have won, because he's the new rising talent, Eli's the exiting talent. Just my opinion. But, well, was there any heat? Because DJ reckons there was.
From all I remember, I was just trying to get the match with Eli, because I knew he was coming back from Schwa for a few, like, he just needed a break from the pros.
Yeah.
So he's coming back to ICWS for a few events, and I just really wanted one of those matches to be against me. Because to me, he was like one of those legends from, the old ICWS, and he was a pro at the time, so he, still is, and is far better than he was back then. And so I remember, and again, this is one of those things that was spoiled on the thread, and, you came back, your return promo, you cut a promo, no, not your return promo, one of your promos as the heel champion, you're like, MC Cruel's returning later in the show, and I'm just seeing the crowd like, fuck off, man. Like, you straight up just spoiled the surprise return for later in the show during your opening promo. It's like, I've brought out the best in the ICWS. Even MC Cruel's returning later. I'm just like, fuck off.
I don't know. I thought it was a previously announced thing.
It was supposed to be an open challenge.
Oh, my bad. Okay, well, I'm sorry. I have no recollection of that happening or you being angry at that happening.
I wasn't angry. I was just like, oh. fuck?
Anyway, so there was no heat between you and him at all?
Not at the time. I mean,
what the fuck are you talking about then, DJ?
I feel like maybe I wanted to go over, but there was definitely no heat. I definitely wasn't angry that he was going over.
You didn't dislike each other, right?
No, I was trying as hard as I can to get I was trying as hard as I can to get a match with him.
I don't know what the fuck DJ's talking about then, because on the podcast he said there was heat between the two of you at the time.
No.
Weird.
Not 2010. No.
Okay. Anyway, so you happy you got to have that match with him?
Yeah. No, it was a very good match. I looked very awkward at some points. Like, I just threw clotheslines with my arms completely stiff and shit like that. But overall, it was one of the better matches.
There was one point in the match where he booted you in the head.
Oh, for fuck's sake, that punt. I still give him shit about that to this day.
Really? Because
I'm lying there. He's like, alright, I'm going to do a Randy Orton punt. So I'm like, cool, do you want me to put my hand up? No, I'm just going to miss you and then slap my leg and make the sound. The cunt just boots me in the temple. And then afterwards, he uploads a slow motion video of it. Just a standalone clip of him punting me, slow motion, and like zooming in on my head as his foot connects with it.
How lovely.
Oh no, it's a great memento to have. I really, should make it my screensaver.
So during this time, there's the ICWS versus XCW feud going on, but unfortunately you broke your wrist.
The day before Halloween Hell, I was doing some free running stuff on the beach, and yeah, I did a backflip, rolled over my own wrist, as one does from time to time. And yeah, called Dan from the emergency room saying, hey, might not be able to wrestle tomorrow, kind of fractured my wrist.
Was that, did you call Dan before you called your mum?
No, I was at the hospital with my mum.
Okay. I was going to say, it'd be funny if the backyard wrestling was more of a priority.
No, once I knew I wasn't going to die, then I called Dan.
Okay. Were you disappointed
Die of a broken wrist.
at all to not be a part of the big 5 versus 5 series?
The weird thing was, at the time, I remember that I always plan my matches out weeks in advance. It's something I've always done. And for this one match, I was supposed to be facing John, who didn't end up showing up anyway.
Yeah.
And I just hadn't planned anything. And so I don't know if I wasn't excited for the match, or I don't know what happened, but there was definitely something different in the prep for that match.
It's weird when you have booked Mike Delcanho versus Johnny V, and then on the day you get Declan Diamond versus Taser. What the hell? Like, what has happened? Guy broke his wrist. John was too hungover to come. I believe, but he said he had work, but I believe he was hungover.
Ah.
But anyway, so you weren't disappointed not to be a part of it?
No, it felt kind of good to be a fan, because I never got to just like rock up without my wrestling gear and just watch a show.
Yeah.
Which I actually thoroughly enjoy.
That show, in my opinion, is the closest that we were ever going to get to a super show.
Oh yeah, we had ICWS, XCW, and SBWS,
and we had MWF in Mykonos.
Oh shit, Mykonos made his debut, didn't he?
Like we have like all these different people from XCW. They're at the tail end of their time in wrestling. SPWS, this hardcore revolution in WA backyard wrestling. ICWS, which is waving the flag for backyard wrestling, and MWF, which is not really much of a fed at all, but
it's not a thing.
It's being represented at least. And it's Mykonos' debut, and his debu's on that big show with all these...
Again, someone else who came out to like 16 entrance themes. Jesus, Mykonos could not pick an entrance theme.
I'm so disappointed he's stopped using Superstitious. He didn't
Has
use
he?
Yeah, he stopped using it last show. I think he went back to an old theme of his.
But it worked so well.
I loved it. But anyway, so from there, you're the hardcore champion, but you got a broken wrist.
Yep.
You do this little storyline with Declan Diamond and JD Flame against Mike Delcanho and his manager, Sky Summers.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't know how in the prep for this podcast I didn't even think about this being a thing, and I realised this would definitely...
I loved this feud. I thought it was awesome.
But, just because Sky Summers, that is the sole reason why I just have to cringe. Also, those promos at Justin's house.
They were brilliant. Look, they're horrible in their own little way to someone who is a professional wrestler or whatever. But if you look at it from knowing who Justin and DJ are, I thought the whole thing was hilarious, and it was just such an awesome little storyline to make your feud mean more.
It was just so funny, because that day we just all went to Justin's house. It was me, Justin, DJ, Nick, because Nick did camera, and Miss Summers herself. Cassandra Dobson, I will name drop. And yeah, man, it was just a fuck day. Like, just coming up with these stupid fucking ways I break my wrist. Like, I'm literally just sitting on a park bench, so fucking...
That's the funny thing. Like, okay, we're gonna go get him, and then you happen to be at the park
in front of his house.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I'm just sitting on a bench with Sky Summers. They just decide, hey, let's start up on Mike Delcanho after, like, you know, thinking ahead of time in front of the camera. Hey, we're going to attack Mike. Oh, look, there he is.
He just happens to be at the park right across the road.
There were some other ones we filmed where I was just walking with Sky Summers, and they just run up behind me and like hit me in the back and stop my wrist. Like, we thought of a few scenarios as to how to do the wrist thing.
Yeah, it ended up being JD Flame takes you out, but then you guys end up wrestling at the next event.
Yeah, and what we did was I came in with the wrist guard and then took it off and was like, fuck you, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And that was actually a pretty good match. That was Seasons Beatings, 2011, yeah. 2010.
That was a good match.
That was a decent match. Probably, you know, now it's definitely not one of my favourite JD Flame matches because I've had a few that I much prefer. At the time, I thought it was great. Like, you know, we didn't overdo the hardcore thing. There was some good technical stuff in there. The finish I quite liked. He went for a cutter. I caught him in a rolling cutter. Which was just like a really,
awesome.
really cool counter. Like, you know, I used to be a lot more inventive with my moves. Like, right now, I really stick to moves that already exist. Man, back then, I used to think of crazy as shit moves. Like, my original finisher on the trampoline was a Cobra Clutch Bulldog, which would just be impossible to bump. But I thought of it, man. I thought of cool tag team moves, and like... and then as I went on and I started actually learning more about wrestling, I just started actually sticking to real moves that people have invented.
Yeah.
Like, I remember early on in ICWS, I was trying to push a submission move, a cattle mutilation, where I do a Cobra Clutch. I was obsessed with Cobra Clutches because I could do them. And so I did Cobra Clutch and then, like, flip forward into a bridge. And, man, it looked sick!
Yeah.
But just, like, since then, never used it.
Never used it.
So yeah, I've definitely got a lot less inventive with my spots.
Okay, so from there, you've beaten JD Flame, entered the feud. Following show, we got a main event at Aussie Anarchy 2011, champion versus champion. You versus Dan Zeppelin, your first ever main event.
The most disappointing match of my life.
Really? Why?
Because the second we start... Okay, so for context, the event before, Dan had wrestled Dark Ice in this ridiculous hardcore match. Even by, like, today's standards, like, some of the shit they did in that match was... you know, this was the match that started off with the Joker Driver.
Yeah.
So this is the match that they refer to now. Every time they wrestle, they always tease the Joker Driver or hit the Joker Driver. Yeah. And we're always like...
And it's never been hit as beautifully.
Never. The first time they hit it was just absolutely
amazing.
Picture perfect. Anyway, so we decide we're going to, you know, try on that. So we start the match. I get him up for an electric chair. Look like I'm going to tease the Joker Driver. And then he was supposed to hit a reverse Rana. I don't know why. I just completely forgot how to wrestle, and I just back bumped it. And from then on, crowd was dead. Crowd was dead. I was dead. Everything was just like... It's just
so from one blown spot at the start
one
of the match,
blown start, just completely destroyed the crowd, destroyed us. And it was... and again, like you can see in the highlights, at the end of the match, he hit me with... Basically, I blocked the slice spread twice, some with some good counters, like those, you know, calling it a Fine's carry, blah, 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 blah. And the last one, I was supposed to try counter again. He was supposed to then segue into a backstabber or a backcracker and then pin me. And it just looked fucking terrible. And he pinned me, and then someone said to Justin, who was the cameraman, hey, did it come out alright? And then he just goes, nah, it just looks like a big piece of shit. And that's the last thing you hear before the final pin count is counted. Nah, it just looked like a massive piece of shit.
So is it disappointing to you? Okay, so your first title win, the match wasn't very good. Your first main event, the match wasn't very good. Is this disappointing to you?
Yeah, there have been a few cases where I've like had a really big match and then just hasn't delivered. And I've delivered every point up to that match. And like I felt gratified. And then just get to that match and just blow out.
Interesting.
It kind of sucks. Like I can't think of any other examples off the top of my head that really pissed me off that much.
I'm only just learning these things now, so we might learn some more a little bit later on.
Might get through to another event that just scars me.
So the next show, you lose the hardcore title to Clint Marshall. What are your thoughts on this decision, dropping the belt to the new rising star in the ICWS? Do you feel a little bit...
I was
what
all
the
for
fuck?
it.
I thought I was the rising star. Now Clint Marshall's taking my belt, and now he's rising ahead of me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
At this point, this was actually my last show.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So I was going to do professional training at this point, so I knew I was going to have to drop the belt.
Oh,
and
okay.
They suggested Zib, and I was like, yes.
Well, you guys hadn't wrestled at this point.
We had never wrestled in ICWS at this point. The thing with me and Zib and Justin is that I can wrestle any of them, and just because I grew up, I learned how to wrestle with them. Well, I learned how to, inverted commas, wrestle with them. And so, they go for something, I know what they're doing. And I know how to shift my body weight, and I know their strengths, I know their weaknesses. And so, getting to wrestle a triple threat match with them as my last match, what I thought was going to be my last starting match, was great. And it was a really great match, you know. 2 faces, 1 heel, you know, start of the match is cliche, you know, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles spot where Justin tries to like get in both of our faces and we both attack him, throw him out, then we wrestle each other. Like, just basic wrestling. But, you know, we hit some great spots. There was a fire extinguisher. God, no, Justin brought in a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
Some good outside bumps. And then, yeah, the finish, what did Zib go for? Zib went for something. I reversed that into a hip toss attempt for some fucking reason. Why would I go for a hip toss? But anyway, and then from that, he already had the arm hook, so he just hit the supernova for the win. And I did all... They called for a promo, so I did a promo. I put over Zib. I put over, what's him called? Dan Zeppelin is the best wrestler in ICWS.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at promos. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
And so this was just this rushed fat kid with a weird pseudo-British accent, like spouting, you know, random obscenities. I go to leave, and I have a little improv thing in my mind. Justin's in the ring, like, being heelish. I'm just like, fuck it. I walk in, wallop him in the back with a pipe, and hit a rolling cutter. And he just, like, looks up and like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why the fuck did you do that? I was like, I don't know. Like, I thought it was right.
So, after losing the hardcore title to Zibby, you've left ICWS. Why did you think now was the time for you to leave ICWS and go pro wrestling?
My last event actually fell exactly on my 16th birthday. And I was in the mindset that at 16 you start wrestling training, and that's how it works. And I was just desperate to do wrestling training because I love wrestling. I love it. I can't get enough of it. It's stupid as hell, but I can't get enough of it. Yeah. And I think most of us share that.
Yeah,
that's why we do what we do. And so Schwa had contacted me through Eli. Yep. I'd contacted them and asked them about what I do and how much it costs and where it is. At this point, it was situated about 10 minutes from my house, so that was easy. Yep. All I needed to do was buy a pair of knee pads, which I already had because of yarding. And so I rocked up at training. And, you know, you were there at the time.
That's right.
You indeed were there.
Yep.
DJ was there. Eli was there. So I had that little safety net, which was good. So,
which was good for me too. When I went there, I had Eli and I had DJ.
Yeah,
so.
it was good to, and there was a brief point where even the SPWS boys came for a bit.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I think they came for like a couple of trainings, but I don't know if they did too much.
No, they never went past like a few trainings, but I remember the first time they rocked up, I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. And I think I was supposed to do a gimmick where I was supposed to be like the leader of a young invading group of people who think they're being held down. I was supposed to be the leader of this stable.
Really?
Like feuding with Eli. That was going to happen, and then they moved to Maddington, which is very far. And I was in high school at the time. I didn't have my driver's license because I was 16.
Because, and that would be fucking hard.
It would have just been impossible. And so at that point, I had to stop training, which is a real shame because I was loving it. I was getting great reviews. I'd done one match under a mask doing a stereotypical Jewish gimmick because they literally would not let me do anything else. They said I had to, as a mask character, they almost wouldn't physically let me do anything other than the Jewish thing.
What the hell? Why?
Because it would have been a hilarious in-joke, which it was.
David Starr.
David Starr was my one event.
Well, this is your pro wrestling debut.
My pro wrestling debut at age 16 in a warehouse in Morley with about 70 fans.
That was a good.
That was a great show.
That was a good show. Yeah.
Because
despite the fact that it was booked, this April Rules thing and all the stipulated matches didn't make sense.
The matches were nonsensical, but from an actual show and wrestling,
it was a nice atmosphere in there.
It was a great atmosphere because 2 days before the venue we were supposed to be at just told us no. And so we had to do it out of our training facility.
Yeah.
And with 2 days' notice of a change, we got one of the best crowds ever because I still firmly believe this. Wrestling in the inner city part is just... Why is it not more prevalent? Most people live in this little part of Perth.
Yeah.
The fact that... I don't understand it.
Yeah.
You'll get so many... People are more willing to travel from out to in for a show than they are willing to travel from in to out.
Yeah.
And that's just basic human, that's how people work.
Well, people go
They gravitate towards other people.
To the Perth Arena to see the Wildcats or to see a concert.
Exactly.
Why won't people come central to... there's fucking NHPW up in Coburn.
AEW down in Rockingham. Like, it's so... And then Schwarz up in Midland, EPW... EPW stays... Like, Midland's not bad. It's actually... I thought it was a lot further than it was. It's not bad, but I'd rather it be somewhere closer.
Yeah.
And AAW and NHPW is just like, come on. Right. Like, you are so far. And I understand, especially from AEW's perspective, because they have a very vocal, loud core fan base, and they're all situated in that area.
Yeah.
So it would actually be a lot stupider for them to move anywhere from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because their fans are absolutely rabid.
Well, they tried to do some shows in Mirrabooka and it just didn't work.
I went to one of the Mirrabooka shows and it didn't work. You know what? But at least they tried.
At least they tried, yeah.
Yeah, that was Shelton Benjamin's show.
Yeah, I felt bad for him, He's flown all the way there and... Yeah, I don't know why, but I thought Mirrabooka would have been... People been like, oh...
Because that was literally 2 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
Literally up the road. And so I was like, sick.
Yeah.
Great.
Shelton Benjamin, 2 minutes
from my house. Awesome. And, there were maybe 20 people in attendance.
Yeah.
It was fairly, it was a shame.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting too far away from what we were supposed to be talking about.
We'll get on that later.
So why did you leave pro wrestling and come back to ICWS?
It was just too hard at the time. Being 16 years old, not having a driver's license, having high school.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I tried to convince my parents to let me take the train to this dodgy ass part of Perth, which is where the training is held in Maddington.
Yeah.
They were like, no way, I'm paraphrasing here, but you're a fat kid who can't fight. Like, we're not going to let you go on this train.
Yeah.
So, which in hindsight was obviously a fair opinion. I was quite devastated because I really wanted to go to training, but you know what?
It is what it is.
It is what it is, and it was with my complete best interest at heart.
Yeah.
So I told Schwa, sorry, I can't come anymore. Yeah.
That's a shame. So immediately you start a conversation on Facebook with Chris Zeppelin or something and say, I'm ready to come back.
I don't even remember what I did.
Remember anything?
No, I remember saying...
next thing you know, you're back.
Next thing I know, I'm back. And I'm at the ICWS show. Everyone thinks, I'm just a crowd person. And this is where... This was the first time I ever tried a secret return thing. This is the first time I ever tried it. I pretended to go out the front to answer a phone call, changed, and then came through the curtain out the front of the house.
Okay.
Yeah, basic. But it was just so... I was just so conspicuous in my absence. And everyone was like, we clearly knew it was you. Like, there was no one else.
Oh, yeah, I mean, no one said anything to me and I knew you were coming back.
No, there was no one else it could have been. And I was mysteriously absent during the, little bit before the match against JD Flame.
This is Twisted Metal 5.
Twisted Metal 5.
Yeah.
And then this is also the first time that Mike Delcanho did his patented fall over during a major match.
Oh, okay, that happened then.
Gimmick, yes.
So that was the first one.
That was the first one. I came out spinning and I tripped over my own foot and then fell down. And Justin was supposed to rush me and we started a brawl, but I fell over. And so we were both pissing ourselves laughing and trying to hammer the shit out of each other.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I fucked it up. We had a great match with, I would say, as close to zero crowd reaction as physically possible. Like, you could have heard, like...
You've had problems with that over the years.
Why? This is me. I'm very proficient when it comes to actual wrestling. When it comes to persona and crowd involvement and actions, I'm a lot weaker. And
you got better at it.
Exactly. There are some people who naturally get the presence and have to learn the wrestling.
I think Mick Noss goes through the same thing.
Yeah.
I think he's starting to learn, like you started to learn how to deal with that better.
Exactly. So some people naturally get the showman aspect and don't get the wrestling aspect. Some people don't get either. Some people get both. And then I understood the wrestling aspect but did not understand the persona aspect.
Gotcha. So the following show's Winter Warfare. You get a big win over Mykonos, who's one of the golden childs of the ICWS roster.
That's right.
He was pretty well protected most of his run in ICWS.
No, this was the first match after his undefeated streak had ended.
Yes.
At the hands of 3-Dog at Twisted Metal 5. No, that was a great... I loved that match. Like, I came out with a whole new look.
I don't even think I've seen that match. Was there?
No, you definitely have, because you used to do a thing, for reference, on the ICWS page. Carl used to post a thing called Inferi's Inferno. The first ever version of which was this event, I remember, Winter Warfare. at which yours truly, Mike Delcanho, was number 1.
Oh,
for the
that's
show.
right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So
That was a good match from my vague memory of it.
Exactly. So, I came out with this whole new all-black, almost like a wrestling machine gimmick type thing. I debuted a new finisher, the Over Easy, which
was by far one of your best finishes.
Yeah. I thought I'd say one of my best finishes. Which Mykonos actually suggested, because I wanted to do it as a move, and I was trying to think of a finisher, and he said, why don't you just use the Over Easy? That
was a good move, because I had never seen that move before.
Yeah, well, I took it from Chris Sabin, who used it on the independent circuit, and I just loved it, because, it showcases technical proficiency, power. There are a few cool ways you can get into it.
Yeah, there's a few ways that,
There are cool counters you can do from it.
Yeah, excellent.
So,
like Supernova.
Exactly, which I came up with. Sorry.
Okay, so you've beaten Mykonos, and now, all of a sudden, you go from not being in the ICWS to the next show defeating Dark Ice, turning heel, becoming the number 1 contender for the Heavyweight Championship. What's happening at this stage behind the scenes?
So this is probably my least proud hour, in that I am just being a little... I could essentially be in the clique in the late 90s. I was just politicking my way to the top of this backyard federation. I was, at the time, Dark Ice hadn't won a match in a long time, and he was quite upset that he had to lose to me. So I made sure it was a cheap win. I reversed a choke slam into a victory roll.
That was good. That was a really good finish.
So yeah, it was actually really well done. And yeah, I really wanted to be the champion. I was and at this point, I was gaining a fair bit of weight at this point.
But you were getting better and better.
I was getting better in the ring because I had the basics from Schwa, and from that, because I knew how to do a lock-up, I knew how to do things.
Because you already had that raw talent.
Because I watched enough wrestling that I got it.
Yeah.
I learned how to do an arm drag literally by watching repeatedly this one clip of John Morrison hitting an arm drag on Kane.
Oh.
In a random tag match in 2009 or something, and then getting Zibby on the trampoline and repeatedly going through the motions of doing an arm drag. And that's how I learned how to do an arm drag. I mean, I got a lot better at it later, but I got the mechanics.
So you get your first title match against Clint Marshall, you lose.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, once again, you're politicking, and I remember the conversation of you saying, Clint Marshall's a boring champion, I need the belt. And the following event, you won the belt, and the radical movement in Australia forms for the first time.
Yeah.
So, your thoughts on that time and the formation of the radical movement Australia?
So, at that time, Clint Marshall was the champion, and, man, this sounds so petty. He just wasn't doing anything. He came out, wrestled his matches, went backstage. That's what he did. There was no... He could have been
storyline.
He could have been doing the same thing without the championship, and it would have been the exact same.
It just seemed like there were no angles.
There were no angles. There were no promos on his behalf. There were no challengers challenging him. He was just a wrestler who happened to be the champion.
Is that a fault of him, or is that a fault of the booking?
I think it was a little both. I think because Zibby and Justin have never, been as passionate about actually physically wrestling as I have been.
Yeah.
They've loved wrestling itself as much as I have, but actually physically doing the wrestling, I always think that I've been the one who's been the most passionate about it.
Yeah.
And definitely. So I was in high school and just thinking of what I would do if I was the champion and how these creative things would go if. And so I worked a spot where at the end of the match with him at Halloween Hell, I stole the belt. I hit him with an over easy, and I tried to go for the pin. I didn't realise I'd been pinned inexplicably, and then I declared myself the rightful champion and left with the belt.
Yeah.
The next event, Seasons Beatings, wrestle a hardcore match. They had some bloody good spots in there. Absolutely no psychology, but great spots. Great spots. And then the Radical Movement was going to form an ICWS at some point, and I politicked again to make myself the incarnation. Yeah.
So whose idea was it to do a Radical Movement version for Australia? Because there was one going on in America with Rad Hazard and all that. Who thought that's a good idea? We should do that in ICWS.
I think it was Rad, because Rad had been watching our stuff. And I think he messaged Chris or Dan Zeppelin and was just like, hey, you guys should do this. So we had a bit of a discussion. I said, you know what, I'll do it. Cool. I tried to make sure this was all behind closed doors because I wanted to pull another surprise.
Yep.
So at the time, JD Flame and Mykonos were in a tag team called Body Spray, which is
I love that tag team.
Still my favourite tag team in WA yarding history.
They just worked so well together.
Because the funny thing was, the event that they formed, they started because JD Flame interfered. Mykonos interfered after JD Flame had beat Tim Justice, and they both started for some reason beating up on little Tim.
Yeah.
At the time, Mykonos was doing a psychopathic character with face paint who was upset that his undefeated streak had ended. Justin was doing a dickhead, serious wrestler who was coming out to Drake. And the next event, this body spray thing just came out of nowhere. And it was brilliant.
It was awesome.
It was so funny.
And I think that you and those, the chemistry that you three had, it worked.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work with certain stables. Someone joining a stable, you realise it's not working, but the three of you, it worked so well.
Yeah. And so at the end of the season's beatings match, I told them to be in the crowd. Like, don't come out of the entranceway, because if you're backstage, people know. Yeah. So they rush from the crowd, they stomp on Zib for a bit, hit him with the title belt, then SBWS come out, because they were about to start a feud with Body Spray.
Yeah.
And so they fought off Body Spray, went to the back.
I love the layering of the angles going on here right now. SPWS get involved, get them out the way, but the damage has been done.
Yeah, and so not the damage has been done, because they literally came and stomped him a few times, hit him with the belt, which he almost no-sold. So we got back up, started wrestling again for a tiny bit. It wasn't even a straight finish from there. We wrestled again for a bit. He went for a scissor kick. I reversed into a schoolboy, which I turned into a cloverleaf, which he tapped out to. Because Zibby, for some reason, really wanted to lose via submission. Which is so the opposite of everyone I've ever met.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I want to tap out. I was like, okay, sure. And so I, locked him in the cloverleaf, held it there for a bit, then did the classic Jericho, went down to one knee to increase the pressure, and he tapped out. And then Flame Mykonos came back out. I sit there looking like a slightly autistic fat child, and I'm just smiling. I shake their hands and hug them. Justin and I weren't really friends at this time, so we had the most half-assed hug I've ever seen in my life. It was slaps me on the back twice, and then that's it. And then we hit, the first time ever, we hit the Eradication, which is the last move I've ever invented.
Yeah.
Which was the wheelbarrow lift to a super kick cutter combination. Yeah. Which I love. And so we established that as a three-way move. I got on the microphone, announced ourselves as the Radical Movement, and saying we were going to take over.
Okay, gotcha.
That was really long-winded. Whew.
That's okay. We had to be long-winded about that, because the Radical Movement part, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most important parts of your backyard wrestling life. So now you got the championship. How does it feel to be the champion? Now you're the face of ICWS.
Felt pretty cool just to be acknowledged, because I always thought that the sun shone out of every single orifice that I possessed. Mm-hmm. I thought that my wrestling ability was the greatest thing that had ever graced God's green earth.
So was there a bit of an ego?
A bit. No, I was very, very confident in my own abilities. And so I thought that the belt was a self-gratification type thing.
Yeah.
Back when it was just me, Zib, and Justin on a trampoline, I was usually the champion.
Well, in the end, I think it was a good decision.
Well, I think so too. I think in hindsight, me being a backstage political mastermind, probably helps.
The Shawn Michaels of backyard wrestling.
Damn straight. Fuck, I wish. Man, that'd be a good comparison. Anyway, so I was very happy with having the title, and meaning that I was always wrestling last. The younger guys who were starting to come in around this time were guys like Tim Justice. Yeah. And when they came in, they saw that I was the champion. Yeah. And so to them, that was it was cool. This guy's the guy who we should. This is the guy. This is the guy who. Same with the Jack Wallaces.
Yeah. So from there, you're the champion. Rematch from the previous January's show.
Oh, that's right.
Dan Zeppelin challenges you for the heavyweight championship. I feel, in a way, him losing to you was a bit of a passing of the torch.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool having that same match 2 years in a row. First show of the year both times. And God, did we improve.
Both in completely different
circumstances. Yeah. One, I was the secondary champion, he was the primary. Second time, he was chasing my heavyweight belt. Yeah. Belt, in inverted commas again. Yeah. And God, we improved on that first match. Whew!
That was a good match.
Wow. I mean, some great...
And do you recall that I actually booked that show?
I have no recollection of that.
ICWS In Your Yard was
That's
a little show because Chris Zeppelin was stressed the fuck out. So I said, how about I take over for one show. I book the card. I let the guys know what's happening. We'll still keep your storylines going. I'll talk to you about it. We'll get it all sorted. I wanted you and Dan Zeppelin to main event because I thought it would be good for you, for your title reign, to start off on a good note by beating Dan Zeppelin.
All right, I remember that now. I remember when you said In Your Yard, I was like, oh shit, of course, that was, Carl's little brainchild.
Well, what better way for you to really cement your title reign immediately?
It was a great match with some brilliant counters. Wow, like some of those, I went for a tilt-a-whirl on him, he reversed that into a standing guillotine choke, which I then hit with bridging Northern Light suplex.
Right. Yeah, all these different reversals.
No, we hit, we hit La Mystica, which is Mystico's, former Sin Cara's submission move from Mexico. It's like a spinning satellite head scissors into an armbar. Like, we just did these cool moves.
Yeah.
And it worked out really well. I got the clean pin on him. And yeah, I'm very glad that
What's it like working with Dan Zeppelin?
He's one of those guys like Jack Wallace who you can just throw around, but the difference is that Dan will take almost anything. Dan, and also he thinks Jack, I'm not knocking you. But initially with Dan, it was cool, just tell him how to do something and he'll do it, and that was great. That was a great thing to have. And he also had a very established moveset, which he still does now. Dan's always been very good at having a fair few signatures and always using those signatures.
Using them. That's what I love about him, is that he gets these moves over as his moves.
Exactly.
He doesn't use moves that other people use. No. These are his moves.
Exactly. And so that made the match a lot better because the counter wrestling, when you have an established moveset, the counter wrestling game is so much better because if you don't know what they're going for, why do you give a shit about the counter?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of counter wrestling, is that, oh man, they're going for something, holy shit, they reversed it into something else. And so knowing what he's going for and knowing what I'm going for meant that the counters just worked better. So I was very happy with that match, that's right.
Well, now that we're talking about it, I'll cut off the spots that we're leading up to now just to delve more into Mike Delcanho planning a match, coming up with all these reversals, sequences, counters, a great way to finish a match. How do you, when you say you're wrestling, let's pick out Mykonos. Say you're wrestling Mykonos, how do you come up with your different counters, reversals, all your these innovative things that I'd never seen before, different ways of doing a match?
Pretty much from watching every single type of wrestling that I could get my hands on. I watch so much wrestling.
And did you study those guys specifically, their moveset?
Oh,
okay, what can I do out of my moveset that would be a reversal of
I didn't study, but the thing is that I watched it enough. I watched it live and I always watched the recap, and I picked up on what type of moves they could do. I picked up on how well they could be, lifted, and how agile they were. And then from that, you can just segue it. And I always made sure I had, the finish was the first thing I ever...
That's what you should always think of first.
I always got the finish out the way first.
That's, perfect way of going about it.
And then, and I just thought, okay, if they're going over, what's my finisher, and how can they reverse that into their finisher, and other way around if I'm going over. Obviously dependent on who it is.
Yeah.
Because if I'm facing, El Kezo, if I was to face El Kezo now, I would not, wait for him to go for his finisher and I reverse into my finisher. I just brutalize the fucker.
Yeah.
So
different circumstances.
Exactly.
There. Yeah.
But when it was because in WA yarding, they're all pretty much even matches. You never have full squash matches.
It's rare.
Because, we wrestle once a month. We love to wrestle, that's why we're doing it. So why would you just cut someone?
You can't make anyone really
a
jobber guy.
No,
we need them to be good as well as everyone else.
So almost
a win over everyone means something.
So almost every match, I've reversed a finisher or something or a signature into my finish, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Because I just think that's the way it's supposed to go. Except for my match with JD Flame at Twisted Metal 4. I wanted to go over heelish, and so I was supposed to low blow him and then do a small package. And I said to him, okay, after the low blow, don't fall down, because you have to stay standing so I can do the small package. It's sure. kick him in the balls. What does he do?
He falls down.
Falls straight down. I'm thinking, fuck.
Natural reaction.
So what do you think I did? I picked him up and did a
small
small package.
You picked him up to do a small package. Ridiculous. What the fuck?
And you watch the music video for that event, and like you see a low blow that cuts straight to a small package, and he fell over in between that.
So stupid, my god.
Because at that time I was very focused on the spots, and so I had to do what the spots
You had to
said,
do what the spots
because
said.
I couldn't improvise.
Yeah.
I couldn't. In hindsight, I think okay, at that point, just pick him up, hit him with the roll and cutter and pin him.
So you're the kind of guy that prefers to write a lot of the match and, like a Randy Savage style, meticulously plan a bit of the match, or do you like to improvise? Which one do you prefer?
Depends who I'm with and how much time I have. If it's a relatively short match, I might as well just plan the entire thing. And if it's with someone who's a lot less experienced, then I plan the entire thing. If it's
an important match.
If it's an important match with important people running in at this particular time, blah blah blah. Like my last yarding match against Clint Marshall was planned very meticulously, but it was planned in spot form.
Yeah.
But just in terms of heats and shines and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And now, especially now that after I've been training for 8 months, it's become a lot more real. Like in terms of doing the classic wrestling formula of shine, then cut off, then heat, then false hope spot, and then come back and then finish.
I find, we'll talk about that a bit later, but I find that to be so boring.
Yeah.
It's just, anyway, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But, okay, we'll continue on from where we are. You're the champion, you have this dominant title reign. You beat Dan Zeppelin, you beat Dark Ice, you beat Knuckles, Clint Marshall, Tim Justice, Three Dog. Mow through most of the roster as the champion. We'll start with, how do you approach a match with someone like Knuckles?
That was probably the match I was most scared for, just because Knuckles isn't a natural wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be said, love you now, but you're not a natural wrestler. And so I had to plan the match, and I ended up loving this match. Because that's the thing about someone like Knuckles. God, the crowd loves him. God, the crowd loves him.
Yeah.
So you work in his Hadouken spot and his
Dragon Ball Z.
His Dragon Ball Z spots and his Superman punch, which now is a bit tainted.
Well, he did that before.
He did that way
Reigns
before Reigns, and he did it off a ladder. Has Reigns ever done a
Falcon punch?
Falcon punch. That's what he called it, right? Of course, Captain Falcon, not the Superman punch.
So good, man.
Yeah, and so we just worked all these spots. He got me in the Knuckles lock, which had only been broken for the first time the event before.
Oh, okay.
And then I broke it again. It's pretty much
twice in a row now.
Oh, not the
now
event
it's been
before.
broken, it's weak.
Yeah, not the event before. It was the year before. It was against Clint Marshall. Whatever.
Ah, gotcha.
And then it's been broken once.
Yeah.
And I was just screw it, I'm breaking it. And we had a good fit. I knew I couldn't lift him for the over easy, so we just worked a spot in where he climbed up the ladder, and I pulled him off into the over
that's
easy.
a good idea, yeah.
Which I'd already done once to Dark Ice, because I wasn't able to lift it though.
Yeah. Well, you beat us at the previous show.
Yeah.
So now, okay, the feud with Clint Marshall is once again picking up some more steam, and he's wrestled Mykonos and JD Flame in a handicap match at some point. He's trying to get his way to get a title shot. Oh, there was a gauntlet match or something like that?
That
was that after?
That was the... Oh, shit, when was that? I don't even remember. That was the event after. That was ICWS Radical Movement.
Anyway, so there were two big rematches? Was there three?
Between me and Clint.
Yeah, there was the Twisted Metal match, which was the Iron Man match.
Yep, that was it.
Was that it?
That was the last match that we had in ICWS.
Okay, so so the scene is set. 30-minute Iron Man match at I almost said Resolution at Twisted Metal. Thoughts on that match? Thoughts on the end of that feud? And Chris Zeppelin joining the Radical Movement.
So I've been looking to throw a spanner in the works. I've been looking to call it our Twisted Metal moment. I was looking for something to end the show.
You've got to do something like that.
I have to do something.
Every single big show, you've got to end it with something
huge.
Big. Yeah.
And so Zib and I planned this match fairly well. Fairly meticulously.
I refereed it.
Well done. Yes, you did. That's right. I remember, because I remember telling you the order of the...
I was like, okay, if you want to trust anyone to referee this, I will do a good job. But
Yeah.
I was puffed out by the end because of the amount of fucking pinfalls and counters.
You were puffed out.
Fuck, man.
You were puffed out.
Yeah.
Oh, you puffed out about. I was wrestling
Doing all
the
the
goddamn
counts
thing.
because there were so many pinfalls.
I was wrestling the goddamn
yeah,
thing.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, no, as in, now would I be able to do a better 30-man Ironman match? 100%. At the time, holy crap, was it incredible. I loved it.
Yeah.
There were high spots, Zib's the kind of guy who occasionally you just remember can actually be extremely athletic.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey Zib, you taught me how to backflip. Fun fact, Clint Marshall taught me how to do moonsaults. I didn't know how to do them before he taught me. I was like, hey man, you should do a moonsault dive onto everyone on the outside. Okay. Again, Zibby's one of those people who he'll just do it.
Yeah.
Show him how to, he'll do it.
Yeah.
And he'll do it better than most other people. So the annoying thing about, wrestling him is that he's just so goddamn fucking talented.
Yeah.
And he just gets it. Anyway. So we have this match. It's great. And then the end of the match goes to what was supposed to be a cloverleaf, and then in the last dying second... Oh, no, sorry. A cloverleaf on me. The last dying seconds of the match, the ref gets knocked out, and so it goes to a 0. And I don't know why, someone told us the wrong time. Someone, told us there was a lot less time to go. So he locked me in the cloverleaf. He doesn't get submissions. He couldn't do the cloverleaf correctly. It was close enough. And then, you as the ref get knocked out by the radical movement. I tap. Match still isn't over. Just like, shit. He picks the ref back up, puts me in a sharpshooter. He gets knocked out again by the radical movement. I tap again, a third fucking time. I go for a kick. He blocks it into a shitty ass cloverleaf. Again, you get knocked out as the ref, and then finally time runs out. So I don't remember who told us that we had that little time.
Yeah.
But Jesus, just made the end of the match so weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Chris Zeppelin
comes out. He's been the face general manager since the company started. Hey, it's raining. Well, that's always fun.
It'll be alright.
Yeah, she'll be right, love.
It won't reach.
Anyway. So Chris Zeppelin's been a face general manager for as long as the company's been around, and I'm just like, turn him heel.
Yeah.
And so I talk to him, he agrees, and he comes out, he announced himself as the special guest ref of the Sudden Death Overtime. So I'm doing a whole bunch of different pins on Zib, because I love roll-ups. I love them.
Yeah.
I love different schoolboy variations, whatever. And then Zib does a few to me, whatever. He hits me with a supernova. 1, 2. He doesn't count the 3.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the crowd is reacting exactly how I want them to. For the first time ever, the crowd's reacting exactly how I want them to something. I'm like, fuck, yes.
That's a huge moment, man. Chris Zeppelin finally turning heel.
Finally turns heel. Turns around to a super kick. Again, someone falling over and not supposed to. Zib was supposed to get hit by a super kick by Mitch, and then turned around to a cutter from Justin. Bumps the super kick off Mitch. And so Justin's just standing there like, fuck. He's like, come on, get up, big boy, get up. Hits him with a cutter after picking him up. I hit him with an over easy, and then it's just the biggest overkill ever. And then we hit him with the triple team finish onto a steel chair, which he bumps.
That was awesome.
He bumps tooth first on the bar on the bottom of the chair. You can just hear this clang in the recap video. It's brutal. And then pin him again. I look like a fat kid in the candy store, which I always look like I always look like that in ICWS.
Yeah.
This fucking afroed fat kid. Anyway, and and I was the champion with the head of the company. And the good thing was Mitch. We always knew that Mitch was going to eventually turn on the ICWS and win the belt off me. That was always
turn on the radical movement.
Turn on the radical movement and win the belt. That was always a given.
Okay.
And so what Mitch did at this event, which was brilliant, because Mitch and Justin had won the inaugural ICWS Tag Team Championship match earlier in the event. So we all did a pose in the entranceway, all of us standing there with our belt. Me, Justin, and Chris all look very happy, and Mitch is standing off to the side looking a bit envious towards us. And none of us told him to do that, but Mitch just knew that for future reference, that scene would look awesome, which it really did.
In my opinion, after this, there was the Tim Justice thing, the 3-dog thing, and then me.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, radical movement was over. I thought, personally, the end of the radical movement was rushed a little bit.
That was because me, Mitch, and Justin, and Zib, all of us were going towards our Year 12 exams at that point.
Okay.
So, Mitch wasn't as dedicated to his studies as Zibby, Justin, and myself. Zibby and Justin were way above me in terms of dedication, but I was there as well.
Yeah.
and so we knew that we weren't going to be there for a while, and had to end the movement.
Okay.
And so earlier in the event, me and Justin just didn't turn heel on Mitch. We just assaulted Mitch, hit him with the double team finish now, just minus super kick. And then, later in the event, after our little match thing that we had, he came out, attempted to attack me, I bailed, and he super kicked Chris.
Gotcha.
So that set up the title match for the next event.
Okay, so we'll rewind to Tim Justice. Amazing. The match that you two pulled off there, and it looked like Tim won the title. That was just
I'd been
awesome.
planning to put over Tim for I can't even state how long. I just wanted that kid's first win to be against me because I thought it would have been hilarious. And so we didn't want the belt, and so again I have to claim credit for this idea because it was brilliant. To have Tim Justice, the ref would get knocked out while I've got Tim in the fireman's carry, classic spot. Dan Zeppelin, who had just turned on Tim, would come out, try hit Tim with a chair. Tim would duck, hit me with a chair, throw out Dan, hit me with a frog splash for the win, and then later Chris would reverse the decision and call the DQ because Dan interfered.
Yeah. Amazing. Awesome finish, man.
And shit did the crowd go alive.
Yeah.
Wow. That was probably my favourite ICWS reaction.
Yeah.
Without doubt, actually. Not even probably.
Yeah.
It was just so... Tim gets the clean pin.
And then he drops to his knees, holding the title, looking at the title, so emotional, and
this
we're all cheering like, I
backyard
can't
wrestling
believe it.
fed in Perth.
And I was thinking, I didn't think this was going to happen, but you know what? His first win to win the championship, this is awesome. I was totally sold.
Were you actually?
Yeah, I was totally sold that Tim
I didn't realise people actually bought it.
I bought it. I was like, wow, okay, that's cool.
Tim's the champion now.
Tim's the champ. Okay, his first wins for that. That means something. But
Yeah.
then it was reversed, and I was like, oh, fucking, that's a good way to get heat.
And then I hit him with the over easy again because he was forced by Chris to give me back the belt physically, which was a great little heat magnet because he walks up to me, he doesn't want to part with his belt. He gives it towards me, I take it off him, kick him, and just hit him with an over easy, and just fuck you.
Yeah. And how great is Chris Zeppelin as a heel?
Chris Zeppelin as a heel was brilliant.
He was such a good face general manager, and then
he was just
as a
really good heel,
such a natural.
Yeah, I haven't seen Chris since probably 2012, I would say. And so it's a real shame that he's not into wrestling anymore because he understood the showman aspect of it. He understood how to draw heat. He understood how to get support. He got it.
He was a really good booker.
Yeah, he was a good booker.
I was always like, fuck, you're coming up with some great ideas, dude. And I always thought, fuck, it's such a shame he's losing interest in this because what's it going to be like without Chris Zeppelin there? It's going to feel like Seinfeld without Larry David writing.
Ooh, that'd be bad.
Well, that's what happened in the last couple of seasons for Seinfeld.
No, that's why
Larry David had left.
That's why I jumped the shark.
Yeah. So that's the comparison I'm making. Chris Zeppelin was the Larry David of ICWS.
Yeah. I mean, I love the incarnation that ICWS has been for now a little bit, where it's pretty much just a fun show for ZWA boys.
Yeah.
But it was great when it was its own entity.
Yeah, and this stage of your title reign was the height of...
I like to think so.
...of the ICWS. ICWS Radical Movement was my favourite show.
Have we been talking for an hour?
We have. We have been talking for an hour and 8 minutes. So after we get to the end of ICWS, we'll probably cut it.
Probably.
And then we'll do a second part for WZWA. But anyway, from there, is there an open challenge for 3 Dog?
There was. Basically, I'd done open challenges for a lot of my career. I did one against the one that MC Cruel debuted at.
So you're well known for this open challenge.
Yeah, I did this. That's what Tim answered to get the match with me.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh no, it wasn't. Sorry, I was booked in a bullshit match with him, and then he challenged me for the title. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'd done open challenge a few times, and I was just like, you know what? I want to wrestle a few different people. Let's do almost a gauntlet style match. So the first one, Aaron 3 Dog answers. We have a nice little match in which he, successfully. I think was it a powerbomb? Yeah, he successfully powerbombed me, which everyone was like, "What?"
Yeah,
I was the default fat guy in the Fed.
Yeah.
I was to people who didn't watch ICWS, Carl, would you be able to recreate the chant that greeted me at every single entrance?
Diabetes.
You fat fuck.
Diabetes.
You fat fuck. So that's what I endured for about 3 years.
Did that upset you?
A little bit.
Because I never chanted diabetes. I never chanted "you fat fuck." I just sat there because I was like, I don't get it. Does he actually have diabetes? I don't know.
Why would they abuse me for actually having
does
diabetes?
He actually have it? Because that's fucking cruel. I'm not joining in on that chant. I never asked, but I didn't like the chant.
No, okay, I did not have diabetes. I don't remember who started it.
But it's obviously you're getting
it grew,
heat.
Man.
You're getting
exactly.
heat. You know, when you're not in character, you're a good friend of everyone. But then, as soon as Mike Delcanho walks through that curtain, everyone's actually trying to upset you by saying these things because they hate you as a heel.
It did upset me a few times. There were a few times where, like, I was making my entrance and I just walked towards someone and it was like, "Can you not? Like, that'd be great." And then people started using it in their matches, like as a an inflammatory thing. Like Knuckles had me in a knuckle lock and said, "Tap you fat fuck." Tap you fat bitch. I remember specifically he said bitch because I was like, that doesn't really work. Fat bitch doesn't really work, but okay. What were we talking about before then?
We're talking about your match with the Open Challenge.
Oh yeah. So he hit me with the power bomb, which was pretty sick. We did some great spots. His spinning side slam. Three Dog's one of those guys who, my God, he just hits a few spots and it's just beautiful. They're just beautiful. His swing side slam is brilliant. His last ride now is great. His spear into the bridge is still the best thing I've ever seen in wrestling. I can't
believe this fucking big dude can do a bridge.
It was just the first time he did it against DJ. It was just like, why? And that was my first match. Anyway, getting off topic. So yeah, match with Three Dog. I was supposed to go over via moonsault because I couldn't hit any of my finishes on him. I ended up going mostly vertical and not actually making any distance.
And almost hitting your fucking head on the bottom.
Firstly, hitting my head on the ladder. Secondly, kicking him directly in the cock. I kicked him directly in the balls, and so I had to do a schoolboy. He sold up, and I just did a regular schoolboy and held the tights. And so all right, cool. I've won. Your music hits. You come out. You're doing some silent gimmick bullshit thing right now.
Well, it was
you were just called crude.
Yeah,
I remember you wanted to do that. You just wanted to do the single name thing.
The idea behind this character was that SPWS had killed the human aspect of Aston Crude after what they did to him.
Okay.
So I was no longer going to talk. I was going to try and do something completely different. That was my idea. I was going to be this dark character which didn't talk. The only way that you would find out what he had to say was in these notes that he would leave around the arena. Little subtle hints at who he's targeting next, why he's doing what he's doing, why he is who he is. I thought it was going to be really good, and I eventually wanted it to become about me trying to get rid of the radical movement. Because they were doing
that would have been fun.
Yeah, well, they were doing this storyline from Winter Warfare 2011. I was supposed to be climbing the ladder. It had been a year now. I've been hardcore champion. I've changed my character now. And then I thought, okay, even if I get to the title match for the heavyweight title, even if I lose, that's fine, as long as we get there, because that was the initial idea. I would eventually get there for the title match. Whether I won or lost didn't matter. But the whole idea was, I would leave these subtle notes around the arena, and it would be read by, whoever, maybe you guys come out, there's a note left, on the ladder or whatever, and you read it out. What the fuck is this shit? What is Crude going on about? No one understands, because I'm using lines from the book The Art of War.
Shao Tzu.
Yeah, I'm using different lines from there. This is war, and I'm gonna get who I'm gonna get eventually. And I wanted to do this thing where I had to get through JD Flame, get through Mykonos to finally get to you. Anyway, I guess Chris Eplin didn't like the idea, or he was too busy with other ideas. So
anyway, so we had our little match, which when you came...
Do you remember the slap to the face?
I was about to speak on the slap to the face, because I was like, cool, this is the first time I'm facing someone who's also done pro training since I've done pro training, so I'm like, this is going to be sick. And I'm just like, oh man, I hope he's not really stiff at all. And so we start the match, and I try to politic you, I try to do the heel thing, saying, nah man, you know what, you slap me in the face, I swear to God, I've never been slapped harder in my life. I was just like, ugh!
Because as you're talking to me and you're ripping on me, and I'm slowly taking off my leather glove, and I take it off, put it in my back pocket, and I just slap you as hard as I possibly can.
And I was just like...
So I was like, I'm going to get something out. I'm going to get some passion
and
out
so
of this guy.
later in the match, I'm like, alright, you know what? You're playing stiff. And so you had me in a spot. I broke out of it, hit a discus lariat, and I remember clubbing you in the chest. I was just like, yeah, take that, you son of a bitch.
And I was probably like, fuck yeah.
I remember that. I occasionally...
It was a good match.
It was a good match. Yeah. I had that diving, twisting moonsault to the outside. That was beautiful.
Yes, I said to you, I want you to do that twisting thing.
Like, see, I didn't
know what it was called.
I was going to do a twisting crossbody, which is what I did against Mykonos, like the year before, and that was great.
And I'd always remembered it.
And I just kind of did a little half out, and it turned into like this Shane Haste-esque half twist moonsault that landed perfectly vertical.
Yeah.
I was like, cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I didn't know I could do that.
And I know that I was kind of holding back in that match because I wanted a rematch. I wanted this to lead to something, so I just wanted to give a taste of what Delcanho and Aston Krug could do.
What was your thoughts on facing me?
I was excited because I hadn't wrestled you yet, and I knew that you might not be around for much longer, so I was like, I got to get in there and have a match with Delcanho. And then, soon after this you left, and I was like, fuck. I should have gone all out for that match because I'll probably never get the chance to wrestle him again. So, I was really excited though, but I was really just... Maybe I wasn't politicking properly. Maybe I should have said to Chris Zeppelin or DJ, whoever was in charge at that point.
Mike Sabora champion.
Not that. Just, I want this. Do this for me. I've done nothing for the past year except one storyline with SPWS. Give this for me. I want this feud with Radical Movement. But there were other plans in place, and the next show, I missed the next show, so I certainly didn't deserve whatever it was that I wanted.
Next show was Day of Destiny, was it not?
I believe so, and you lost the title to Mykonos, and
yep.
I'm sorry, I hate the match.
I know you hate this match.
Nothing was happening, it was just slow. The crowd did not care. I think the angle wasn't built up enough for people to care.
I think from a technical standpoint, it was a pretty decent match.
Yeah.
Like, I hit a bridging tiger suplex, which was sick.
Yeah, that was good.
He landed directly on my face.
I mean, what you hit was good. It was just the pacing of the match was slow.
No, I agree, actually. But no, I remember you hate this match for some reason.
Well, because it's Mykonos' first big heavyweight title win.
Maybe people just shouldn't win the ICWS Championship. They just have shit matches when they win it.
But anyway, you dropped the title to Mitch. Obviously, you thought he was the right guy?
Yep, I was very happy with that. He'd been politicking for a title win for the last 2 years at that point. Pretty much, I remember literally the event after he debuted against El Kezo, he put a thing on our collective thread saying, "So when will I be champion?" And I was just like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, at least be subtle. At least pretend like you aren't in it for yourself.
Yeah.
And he moved on from that, and I think that winning the WZWA title has been like the crowning achievement.
Yeah.
But the ICWS Championship was great. It's a shame how he really got it as ICWS was stopping.
Such a shame.
Which is pretty much what's happening now.
Well, hopefully not.
The curse of Mykonos, but we'll see.
We'll see what happens, because I don't know what's going on. But, okay, so from there, you missed the next show.
Yep.
But then you come back for one show, Seasons Beatings 2012, against Jack Wallace. There's no remains of the Radical Movement version of Delcanho. Now you're just Mike Delcanho.
I was just ICWS legend face Mike Delcanho. That was literally my job there. Originally, we were supposed to be in a tag team match, actually. What was supposed to happen, it was supposed to be what was then known as High Voltage, Luke Monett and...
High Octane.
High Octane, sorry. God, I wasn't around then. Dynamo and Jack Wallace.
Oh, this is very convoluted, the story. Continue.
And Five versus Rex Regum and Antilochus. And they were supposed to have their little tag match. And then I was supposed to come out and say, hey, you guys are doing great. Like, you guys are alright. I hope you don't mind. I want to insert myself in this match. I know what you're thinking. I don't have a tag team partner. But there's an old friend who, I've had a few differences with him. Like, I hope you guys are okay. But if you don't mind, me and him would like to insert ourselves in the match. It was going to be Clint Marshall. And we were supposed to just team up for no fucking reason. just so we could.
Just
so we did. Yeah. And then, so we had like an awesome finish plan. Do you remember what it was? Then Monett, fucking Luke Monet, pulls out and quits wrestling at the time. Which was in hindsight is hilarious.
I don't know what happened that day, but it was something along the lines of he was getting given shit for wrestling, so he quit wrestling. But then he said later on, someone hacked my account, lie.
Bullshit.
He lied.
Why?
And I called him out on it in the next show. And I was like, you were lying.
Well,
just admit you were lying.
That's just bullshit, because if someone hacked your Facebook account, you still would have rocked up.
Exactly.
Like,
and you couldn't get in contact
you
with him all day.
You would have rocked up and said, "What are you talking about? I didn't say that."
So then that match changed.
It
was going to be Jack Wallace, you, Clint Marshall in a three-way, am I correct?
Yes. And then we decided it was a better idea
and then
for him.
I politicked to DJ, and I was like, please, just do Delcanho versus Jack Wallace, then we can get Clint Marshall versus Mykonos in the main event.
One-on-one match that everyone wanted.
I wanted to see it. So then it turned into you and Jack Wallace.
Yes. That was probably the most fun I've ever had in like a match. Like, just fun. Pure, unadulterated. This kid weighs, I think at the time he was 48 kilos.
Oh, God.
And holy shit, gorilla press, just throw him. He is completely horizontal and just falls. The crowd is loving it. I hit him with a scoop slam, and he just keeps on spinning and ends up in a leg drop position. Oh man, we did a El Generico style double pump handle Falcon Arrow. Like, we just had fun. Was
it good, like, now coming back just to have a wrestling match instead of all the seriousness of your title reign? And
yeah, I just got to be Mike Delcanho the wrestler rather than Mike Delcanho the heel champion, which was fun. And, I enjoyed, and I got, a thank you Mike thing at the end, because they knew this would be my last ICWS match for a while at least.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just getting text from Dark Ice asking if I'm here.
Ah, okay. Yep.
And yeah, it was just, I enjoyed it. And then after the match, for some reason, I had this stupid Santa gimmick with Dan Zeppelin in a Santa costume, who came out, tried to give presents, and then we hit him with a few strikes, and Jack hit him with a stunner. I don't know why we did that.
Yeah, made no
we
sense.
didn't want to do it.
DJ was really proud of that.
DJ really wanted that to happen.
And I was
just like, why?
I was like, I don't get what's going on.
Just let me beat the shit out of Jack and then leave. Like, I don't want to have to team up with him against Santa Claus after this match.
What the fuck? The Jewish guy beats up Santa.
Jewish guy beats up Santa. Yeah.
Amazing. So, okay, at this point, ICWS ain't doing too much after that. There was a couple of shows at the beginning of 2013, and then nothing really after that for a long time. But now we've come to the end of the ICWS, but you did have a four-way match later on.
Yes.
But we'll talk about that later. But in closing, for part one of this, your thoughts on your time in ICWS, how much did it mean to you? Looking back, how important is that era for you as a person? I
absolutely loved ICWS. At the time, I was keeping it secret from my friends. Fuck knows why. And it was just this great release from life. Because I was, I was doing shit in school. I was shit with girls. I was blah, 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 blah. Classic fat Jewish kid problems. The classic white problems. Like, I'm just this upper middle class white kid who just hates the world. But wrestling was like that one place where I could just escape that. And, I was respected there.
Yeah.
People valued my opinion. People valued my knowledge.
Yeah.
And it was just it was just great. I loved it. Genuinely. And it really helped me learn my physical limitations and my physical prowess.
Yeah.
Which, is always helpful in wrestling, knowing what you can do.
Yeah.
And I loved the ICWS. I think it's a real shame what's happened in that it's
it's just not.
It's pretty much discontinued.
Yeah.
But that match that we had beginning of 2014 and that whole show and just the shows since then, it's like WZWA with less people and a more lively crowd.
Yeah, and more fun atmosphere.
It's fun.
Less stress.
It's Shikara.
Yeah.
To liken it to an indie fed, it's Shikara. You have fun. You go there, you watch wrestling, you enjoy wrestling. And you can do some silly shit, you can do some great spots, but at the end of the day, you just are there for enjoyment.
Yeah.
And so, that's what that is.
Yeah, it is a shame that it is where it is now. Not much happening there. We only had one show last year, but all in all, important part of your career, if not more important than what happened in WZWA, because of the spot that you got there and the prestige that you brought to not only the championships you held there, but also with the affiliation with the GBYWN. I believe you're held in quite high regard with Rad Hazard.
Rad Hazard loves me.
Yeah.
which is weird having this mid-30-year-old guy from the US loving me, but you know what can you do, especially when I was like 14. No, like I talked to Rad a fair bit about what was the radical movement and what was going on with it and what theme music did he want us to use and any particular moves that we should use and anything we should refer to in our promos. He was always very helpful. He always gave me feedback from ICWS recap videos. And yeah, it was pretty cool because I ended up having both the longest and the most successful title reign in ICWS. And you know, the most defenses and the most time.
Well, I dare say you're the best heavyweight champion of all time in ICWS.
I fucking hope so.
Well, you have to be. You have to be. The facts are there. I was at the height of ICWS, and good days, good times with good people. So from there, we will come back and we will talk about your time in WZWA and then your entrance into pro wrestling and the future of Mike Delcanho. Then we will get a Q&A from all the questions that have been put on the internet at the end
by our loving fans all around the world.
Yes.
We should have put up a YouTube video saying, you know, ask Mike Delcanho what you want, live stream. Oh, we should have done a Reddit thread.
Oh, yeah, that's going to definitely...
yeah, and this is how we're ending the podcast.
That's how we're ending the podcast on an awkward note. And we'll be back...
That's how Mike works.
With That's our Delcanho.
Who else but Delcanho?
Alright, we'll be back with part 2 very soon. And hope you enjoyed this. And, yep, part 2 coming up.